All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bible Study for See God Slay Goals. We are in part three. Is this part three? We're in part three of the Kingdom Business Bible Study. Um, so do me a favor as you all come in. I'm doing this right now. As you all come in, please do me a favor and share this broadcast out. We're not going to be on here long, but I do want you to share. So I'm sharing this in a couple of places. So tonight we are still talking about kingdom business, but we are going to be, let me share this to our group as well. We're going to be looking at the story of Nehemiah, and we're going to be pulling from his story. Um, 6 phases of building. Tonight, we're going to focus on 3 of those phases. And then next Thursday, we're going to focus on the final 4. So, again, we're going to be in the book of Nehemiah. We're going to start in chapter 2. As always, I want you guys to kind of uh read the previous chapters for your own context. Bless you, Leah, thank you so much. Read for your own context, but we're going to, what I'm specifically talking about tonight is we're going to be in Nehemiah chapters 2 and 3, and we're not going to really read from it tonight. I'm just going to pull out some lessons. And this, honestly, this study that I did from Nehemiah, this happened, man, I did this study actually a couple of years ago. I remember it was, um, oh my goodness, I don't even remember what year it was, but I remember I was sick and I couldn't really talk and I had a bad cough. And so I was basically at home, um, in bed, and I read the book of Nehemiah, and it was such a blessing. I pulled so much out of that just from that time that I was able to, where I was forced to, kind of just be home. And so I want to share with you all what I pulled from Nehemiah. Again, we're talking about kingdom business. We're looking at Nehemiah 6 phases of building, right? Because when it comes to business, that's what we're doing. We're building a business. Many of us were entrepreneurs, first generation entrepreneurs, and we're building from scratch, from the ground up. And so I want to share these things with you. So let's go ahead and pray, and then I'll hop right into this study. Okay, so God, again, we thank you for another opportunity, another time just to be in your presence. God, we're so grateful that you have seen fit to keep us here. We thank you for our lives. And God, we thank you that you continue just to be our Father, our God, and everything it is that we need. And so, God, I pray right now that you would decrease me. I pray that you would speak through me. I pray that what is spoken, that it would be beneficial to your people, that we can apply it to our lives, and that we would not only be hearers of your word, but that we would be doers of your word as well. God, open up our ears, open up our hearts to receive your word, and give us just wisdom and knowledge, understanding, fresh revelation, um, that we may just dig into your word and understand the things that you have for us. And so we're grateful again just for your love, God. Thank you for loving us, and just being who you are, not for what you have done for us, but just for being who you are. God, we love you. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. And I see you guys coming on. Shahi. Hi, Shahi. So, okay, Nehemiah. If you guys missed parts 1 and part 2, please go back and watch it. But today, let's get into Nehemiah. So, the 6 phases of building. If you know the backstory, you want to read Ezra. Really, you want to read Ezra, and you want to read the first chapter of Nehemiah to kind of get the backstory. But basically, Nehemiah, after the Israelites went through the exile from Babylon, where they were in captivity, Nehemiah, he was in the king's court. He was working in the king's court, and he found out that the walls of Jerusalem, that they had been burnt down, right? And so he, being from Jerusalem, that's where he's from, that's where his family was from. He was very disturbed. He was grieved in his heart about what had happened to the walls of Jerusalem. And so the first phase that I'm going to talk about in this, the first phase is passion and prayer. Okay, passion and prayer. And so when you think about when you're building a business, this is everything. We're applying all of these principles to building a business. When you think about building a business, we're talking about kingdom business. you should be passionate about what it is that you are doing, the business it is that you are starting or running, right? So this should not be something that you're doing just because, but this should be something that you have a passion about. Now he was passionate about it because he identified what the problem was. He saw that there was a problem and he was passionate about that very specific problem, right? And so if you are starting a business, if you have a business, there should be some type of problem that your business is solving, right? This should not just be something that you're doing for fun, right? We're talking about kingdom business. If you have a hobby, that's cool, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about kingdom business. So there should be a problem, right? That you are very passionate about, that your business is going to solve. Okay. And so, and when you think about this, what are the things that really grieve your heart, right? What are the things that might naturally come easy to you? What are the things that make you angry, right? Those things that kind of make you angry or disturb you, that might be an inkling to something that you are called to be the solution for, right? So think about that, right? He was very passionate, but he was passionate about this problem. The problem was that the walls in Jerusalem had been burnt down. And so meanwhile, he's in the king's court. When he had heard about what had happened, what was going on, he went into prayer. So I do actually want to start pulling a few of the verses, but he went into prayer. So his first response was prayer. And a lot of times when we are starting businesses or even doing anything, prayer is not always our first response. Sometimes that might be like our third response, or sometimes it might be our last resort. But when it comes to kingdom business, we should be praying about what it is we feel like God is leading us to do. Okay. And so initially, Nehemiah, when he heard about the wall and the wall being torn down, how the wall was destroyed, how the wall was burnt, he went into prayer, right? It said he fasted and he prayed. So I want to pull up this specific verse. So we're going to be in Nehemiah. I'm going to go with the second chapter. Again, read the first chapter for your context. Read the first chapter for your context. So actually, Nehemiah 1 is where he inquires about what happens. And so in verse 3, the people's response to him says, and they said to me, the remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burnt with fire, right? So there's the problem. And it came to pass when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept and mourned certain days and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. So before he did anything, his first response, right? He felt that passion, but then his first response was that he prayed. And so whatever you are feeling passionate about, whatever you are feeling led to do, for your business, for this kingdom business, even if you're already in it, your first response, even if there's, different problems and you might want to be pivoting your business or whatever the case may be, your first response needs to be prayer. There needs to be some passion and there needs to be some prayer. And passion is very important. Like in my consulting business, one of our core values is leading with passion and integrity. So as the leader of the business, you have to get people to buy into the solution that you are providing. And if you are not passionate about it, if you're not excited about it, if it's something that you don't care about, you're not going to be able to articulate that properly to people who you are desiring to serve or people who you want to give this solution to, right? So you first have to be the example. You have to have the passion so that that passion can then be sparked in other people and they can receive what it is that you are trying to do or trying to share. Okay. So number one is passion and prayer. That's the first phase of building. Okay. Now, next we'll go into the second phase of building is the inspection. Okay. So before we get into what the inspection means, I'll just kind of give you guys an idea of what happened in the story in between his passion and prayer and his inspection. So he had this burden in his heart to go back to Jerusalem to build the walls. And so he prayed about it. He prayed to God about it. And mind you, he was working at the time in the king's court. He wasn't in Jerusalem. And so he inquired of the king and asked permission of the king if he could go back and build the wall. The king basically asked him, well, how long are you going to be out there? The king granted him permission to go. And then not Jeremiah, Nehemiah, he also asked for authorization so that, if anybody questioned him on his journey, he would have these papers that say he's authorized to go here to do X, Y, and Z. And so now we're in the place where he finally gets to Jerusalem. So he's had the passion, the prayer, he's identified the problem, and now he's journeyed to Jerusalem. He's arrived, and now this is the inspection. Okay, the inspection, when it comes to your business, when you think about this in business terms, the inspection is really your research. Okay, you can't just start a business just because it's something that you want to do. You need to be researching, your target market. You need to be researching, is this something that people need? Is this something that people want? Is this something that people are going to buy into? Am I going to be able to identify with the people that I'm trying to target, right? So there's a lot of research that has to go into there's a lot of research that has to go into the process before you actually just start going and doing things, right? Yes, he was authorized to go in. He got permission, not only from God, but he got permission from the person that he was serving at the time. So let's pause right there. A lot of us, especially, this is more so specific to ministries, right? A lot of us, well, I won't say a lot of us, but sometimes we see we're under a pastor, and we feel like we're called to start our own ministry, right? But sometimes we don't do that with the proper authorization or with the blessing of the person that we're serving. Nehemiah, he went to the person that he was serving and made sure that everything was good, that he had the authorization, that he had the king's permission, all of that. So it wasn't just like he was out here being a rebel. He went through proper protocol, right? Something we don't like to talk about. And this is specifically to ministry, right? He went through the proper protocol and the proper channels. He had the authorization, right? He went to his leader. He addressed it. He talked to his leader about what was on his heart. He didn't just go and start something and then his leader found out about it on Facebook. Okay, so let's make sure that if you're under leadership and you're trying to start a ministry, that you are doing it the proper way. So now in chapter 2 of Nehemiah, he arrives in Jerusalem, and where's the verse I want to look at? Maybe it's chapter 3. So towards the end of the chapter, verse 11, he says, "So I went to Jerusalem and was there 3 days." This is his inspection, right? I went to Jerusalem and was there 3 days. Then I arose in the night, I and a few men with me, and I told no one what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. That's verse 12. Okay. He says, I told no one what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. And I think this right here is an important lesson that we can apply to our lives, to our businesses, and to our ministries. A lot of times God will give us an amazing idea. He'll give us an amazing business. And before we do the inspection, before we've done the research, before we start the work, we go and we start telling everybody what it is that we're going to do. We start telling people our vision. We start telling people our dreams. But we have to be very careful when we are doing that, because everybody can't handle what it is that you are carrying. And whether you tell people or not, once you start working, which we will see later on in this story, there's going to be opposition. But if you release what you are doing prior to the appointed time that you're supposed to, there's going to be people that's going to try to kill it before it even comes to life. So you want to be very careful that you are not sharing too much too soon, right? So he says that he went in the night, only a couple of people, a few men went with him, right? When you're starting, right? A few men, he probably had a tight circle. You have to have people that you trust, that you're sharing this information with, right? Because he did a great work. He rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem. He didn't do it by himself, but he started with a few men, right? And that also goes, oh man, this is so good. That also goes to show you that you can start small. You don't have to start with this huge team of people, and you can work your way up to something greater. So he says he arose in the night, and he took a few men with him, and he didn't tell anybody what God had put in his heart to do. And then, so he inspects the wall. So he says, verse 13, I went out by night I inspected the walls of Jerusalem that were broken down and its gates that had been destroyed by fire. He says, then I went to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, right? But there was no room for the animal to pass. I went by the valley and I inspected the wall and I turned back to enter the valley gate. And so he's doing all of this inspection. He's doing all of this inspection. This is before he even starts building, right? We want to be quick. We just want to go. We want to start building. We get the idea and we want to go. Right now, I'm not saying that in some seasons that is not appropriate. Right? You have to understand the timing of God. And so in this season for Nehemiah, though, he was trying to complete a huge project, rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. So he needed to inspect to see what it was that really needed to be done and how it was going to be done. He had to assess the situation, right? And so that's what you need to be doing with kingdom business, whether it's a business, whether it's a ministry, whatever you're doing, you need to assess the situation that you're about to go into. Okay, so that's the second phase of building, right? We're talking about building, not talking about like this instant gratification thing that we see a lot happening, but we're talking about building. If you're really building a ministry, if you're really building a business, number one, there's a problem, right? A problem. You see a problem and you're passionate about it and you pray about it, right? That's the first phase, passion and prayer. And then number two is the inspection. So then you begin to do your research. You then begin to assess the situation, okay? And then number three, the third phase, that the final phase that we're going to talk about tonight is the plan. Okay, so after you've inspected, then there is a plan that you have to put into place. So if you look in chapter 3 of Nehemiah, I'm not going to read it because it is very I don't even know the word I'm looking for. It's very like tedious, very specific. It has a lot of people's names in it. So basically, they had come up with a plan when it was time to start building the walls. Now, the Bible does not specifically say that Nehemiah sat down and planned who was going to do what. But between chapters 2 and chapters 3, after he did the inspection, in chapter 3, all we see is that there's all of these people, men. There's all of these men. They have to name about 50 men, right? And each man or each group that these men were with, they were building up a particular part of the wall. That cannot happen if you do not have planning in place. Okay, so I'll read a little bit so you guys, if you guys don't have it open, just so you can see a little bit of what I'm talking about. So in verse 1 it says, then Eliashib the high priest rose up with his brothers and they built the sheep gate. They consecrated it and set its doors. Okay, verse 2 it says, and next to him the men of Jericho built, and next to them, and I'm probably messing up the pronunciation of these names, and next to them Zakur the son of Imri built. And it goes on and on and on and on. And so everybody had a specific place for where they were supposed to be working. In order for that to happen, there's 50 to 70 people named in this chapter, at least. Okay, for that to happen without chaos erupting, there had to be a plan in place. Okay, there had to be a plan in place. And so when it comes to building kingdom business, you have to plan, you have to think ahead, you have to be the visionary of this project that you are spearheading, right? Because that's what it is. You are the leader of this, you are spearheading this, and God has given you the vision. And in order for the vision to come to life, a lot of times we just see the end vision, but we have to plan, okay, how is this piece going to work? Who is going to do this? Who is going to do this, right? This is going back to our study from, I think it was last week, where we were talking about delegation and how we can't do it alone. We need to delegate a lot of the responsibilities, right? We can't have the impact that we desire or even that God is desiring for us if we are trying to do it alone. And we see here with Nehemiah that yes, in fact, he did delegate. Imagine Nehemiah trying to rebuild this wall all by himself. Imagine him trying to do that, right? It sounds crazy. But that's what we do. We try to build businesses, ministries, all by ourselves. Now, the crazy thing about this story, which it would not have happened this way if Nehemiah had done this by himself, but they rebuilt the wall in 52 days. They rebuilt the wall in 52 days. That was a major undertaking, right? But they were able to have that massive impact because he had a plan and he had people delegated to handle certain parts of the plan, okay? And so when we're talking about these phases of building, the passion and prayer, the inspection is so important. And then the plan. What is your plan going to be? I was having a conversation the other day, and somebody said to me, Seek God Slay Goals is about to release something, right? We're about to release something that's going to require people to submit a plan, okay? And so the person that I was talking to, they were saying a lot of people don't have this. But if you are a kingdom business, you need to have a plan. You need to have a budget. You need to understand how you are going to serve the people that you are going to serve, have the massive impact that you are going to have, right? We should not be out here just trying to figure things out as we go along, right? Yes, Sabrina, strategy. We need to have a strategy and we need to have a plan. And so this is what your takeaway is. What is going to be your plan? We're in the third, no, we're in the first month of the last quarter of the year, right? So we should be planning, okay, now I understand that a lot of times we might plan things and they might not go the way that we expect them to or how we want them to. Hence, look at 2020. But still, we should have an idea, right? We should be able to have our feet guided by something, right? And then we can pivot if we need to, right? But we should not just be out here trying to figure things out on our own day by day. So, what is it that you're passionate about? Are you leading with passion in your business, right? And I think a lot of us, we uh we've lost the passion for our businesses. We've lost the passion for our ministries. We've lost the passion for the things that we have been assigned to do, right? And so you have to figure out a way, how can I find that passion? Because it's the passion that's going to allow other people to resonate with what it is that you're doing. Where's your passion? Are you praying? Are you praying about your business? You don't have to leave God out of your business. You don't have to compartmentalize your life in that way. God should be a part of your business. Are you praying to Him about business decisions? Right? The inspection. Are you doing research? Do you understand what it is you're even doing? Do you understand the market that you are in? Do you understand the industry that you are in? Do you understand the people that you are serving? Are you able to connect with those people? Inspection or research. And what's your plan? What is the plan? What are you going to be doing? You don't even have to do a whole year plan, right? What are you doing in November and in December of your business or your ministry? How is it going to get done? Who's going to help you do it? Right? I think we overcomplicate it, and write it down. I saw somebody talking about this today. I forget who, but write the vision and make it plain. Write it down. Write it down. Okay. So that's the first part of the first three phases of these 6 phases of building. Okay. And the next 3 phases I'm excited about because the story starts to get good. I kind of don't even want to wait until next week to tell you guys. Well, I already, you know what? Actually, we're just going to go ahead. I'm just going to tell y'all because it's good. So, we already talked about the team. We already talked about how you need a team of people um, to help you get through what it is you're trying to do, right? So stop trying to do things alone. So that was phase 4, is building your team. Nehemiah clearly had a team. But then phase 5 is the opposition, okay? Phase 5 is the opposition. So you can almost guarantee that anything that you are trying to do that is going to advance the kingdom, that's going to edify the kingdom, that is being that you feel led by God to do, the enemy doesn't want you to do it. And so he's going to do what he can. He's going to send people to try to stop you from doing it. And he's going to present opposition to what it is that you are doing. And so now in the case of Nehemiah, there were specific people who were opposed to him rebuilding the wall. And so we first see them appear in chapter 2, verse 19. Okay, so Nehemiah, he's done his inspection. He had the few people with him. In verse 18, Nehemiah begins to tell people what is in his heart to do for Jerusalem. He says, "And I told them of the hand of my God that had been upon me for good, and also of the words that the king had spoken to me. And they said, let us rise up and build." Okay, now let me go back for a second. Nehemiah had passion about what it was he was doing. And when he shared that with passion, and the people that were with him, they bought into the vision, and they said, let us rise up and build. Imagine if he did not have any passion about what he was trying to do, and he was not excited about it. Do you think those people would have been, like, hey, let's go and build? No, they would not have been. So they said, let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for the good work. Okay, now here comes the opposition. Immediately, verse 19. But when Sanballat the Horonite, and Tobiah the Ammonite servant, and Geshem the Arab, so when those three men, when they heard of it, they jeered at us and despised us and said, what is this thing that you are doing? Are you rebelling against the king? So immediately they're trying to, like, stop him, discourage him, all these things. Okay, and so Nehemiah's response to them initially is, the God of heaven will make us prosper, and we his servants will arise and build, but you have no portion or right or claim in Jerusalem. So when people come up against you in opposition, you have to know what it is that God sent you, what he called you to do, and you cannot let those things, let those people discourage you. You have to know what your portion and your right is, and understand that those people who are opposing you, that they have no portion or any right to what it is that you are trying to do. And you have to be bold enough to be able to say that to them as they are opposing you, right? So, and I want to look at one other thing as it relates to the opposition, and then we'll pick it up next week. But these three men, they had a lot of schemes, right? I'll go deeper into the schemes that they were doing next week. But I want to highlight one of the responses that Nehemiah said. So we're all the way now in Nehemiah chapter 6. So one of the plots, or one of the schemes that these three men had, Nehemiah, they were up there trying to build the wall, and Sanballat and his crew, they were saying to Nehemiah and his crew, they were saying, come and let us meet together. Come down, basically trying to get them to stop the work. They said, hey, let's meet, come down and let's talk about this. Nehemiah knew that they intended to do him harm. This is what Nehemiah 6, and we're in verse 2. He says, but they intended to do me harm. So verse 3, Nehemiah says, he sent messengers to them saying, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. I love his response, and I'm in the ESV version. He says, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. And so you have to be that resolute when you are operating, when you're working in your kingdom business, your ministry, and people are coming up, they're opposing you, they're trying to distract you, right? They were throwing so many distractions at him. It was really comical and borderline ridiculous. He said, I cannot come down. I'm doing a great work. And so you have to believe in the work that you are doing. You cannot, and I think I talked about this in the Facebook group on Monday, but you cannot lower yourself to the standards, or lower yourself to the schemes and the plots that the opposition is trying to bring you, or even the low level conversations, right? You have to respond, and you have to know that what you are doing is a great work, and you can't be distracted by what these people are trying to talk about, right? That's not going to be beneficial to the work. right? You can't be distracted going places and doing things that are going to stop you from the work that you are supposed to be doing, right? And you have to be bold enough to say, I can't come down. I am doing a great work. But you have to believe that you're doing a great work. You have to believe that you are doing a great work. Okay. So that's, we're talking about the 6 phases of building as it relates to kingdom business, pulling from the story of Nehemiah, and we'll pick it up next week and finish out the final couple of phases. But I hope that you got something out of this, that you're like, okay, I need to go back, and I might need to find my passion again. I might need to go back and pray and see where God is really leading me, or I need to build a team, or I need a plan, right? Or I need to be bold in coming up against the opposition when they're trying to distract me. Whatever it is, I hope that you found something, one thing that you can put your mind to work to get better in. Okay, so the kingdom business is necessary, right? You are doing a great work, whatever it is that you are doing. You are doing a great work, but you have to believe it. Okay. So I hope that this was helpful. We'll be back here next week at 7 p.m. to wrap up this Kingdom Business Bible study series. And if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to pop them here in this video. Otherwise, stay connected with us. Seek God, Slay Goals. We have a private Facebook group that you can join. It's called the Seek God, Slay Goals Movement, and we're also on Facebook and Instagram. And our tag, our what do they call it? I don't know. Our name is Seek God, Slay Goals. All right. So hi Michelle. Amen. So I will see you guys next week. Until then, let's connect on social media. I would love to chat it up with you guys. Y'all have a blessed night and stay safe.